to, although it hasn't been confrontational at all. Christie, no, a little bit different because of coming after Christie. I want to get Chris Kobach up and then Terry Schilling. A huge decision on this transgender issue yesterday in California. Chris Kobach, Attorney General of the state of Kansas. Sir, and you've just done a magnificent job. And of course, people know you as one of the top. You and Paxton are probably the two top MAGA Republican AGs. And of course, today we're here following Ken Paxton's. He's trying to fleet up to the Senate. Talk to me about this driver's license situation, because this is one that has sent the Rachel Maddow crowd and MSNBC. If they didn't have the war to focus on, trust me, they would be outside your door. I don't think anything has triggered these people as much as what you've done in the state of Kansas. Can you explain to us what went on, Chris?
Yeah, it's a long saga, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. In 2023, the Kansas legislature passed a bill saying you can't change your sex to something other than your biological sex on your driver's license or your birth certificate. There was litigation over that where we have a Democrat governor in Kansas, and she directed her administration not to interpret the law the way it was obviously written. And so I had to sue the governor, and we prevailed in district court, but then a very liberal court of appeals panel went the wrong way and said, oh, maybe the statute isn't as clear. And so then the Kansas legislature, this past session, within the last few months, amended the bill to make it crystal clear so that no judge could possibly mistake that this is intended to stop individuals from changing their sex on their driver's license to something other than biological sex. So now there's no wiggle room for a judge or an attorney to read it the wrong way. But where it got even more interesting is while the legislature was deliberating on this just in this past January, a newly appointed Democrat legislator who is himself a biological male, transitioned to female, but still very much looks like a biological male, started using the women's restrooms in the Kansas Capitol building, causing great distress to a very large number of female legislators. And as a result, they, in addition to clarifying the driver's license bill, they said, well, this would be a good time to also bring in legislation that we were considering on bathrooms in public buildings, saying that those too must conform to your biological sex, your use of the bathroom. So the two things got passed. The governor, again, tried to veto them. Legislature, we have more than a supermajority Republican in Kansas. Legislature overrode the governor's veto. And just Friday, a few days ago, the ACLU is suing, claiming that there is an invisible constitutional right to force the government to change your sex on your government document, and you have an equally important invisible right to use the bathroom you choose in government buildings. So that is the case we are going to be arguing, and I'll be arguing it this week and Friday in a TRO hearing.
Why is it, Schilling's going to be here in a minute, who's led this effort throughout the country, and he's going to talk about California. Why is it certain elements of it looks like all of it now, because President Trump called it out the other night in the State of the Union where they wouldn't stand. What's the obsession here, sir, that they go through all these perturbations on every different aspect to try to get this in? It seems like to folks in the country, basically, the 85% that don't agree with this, to be an obsession.
I think just from my observation as an attorney who has litigated some of these cases over the past few years, I think there's a real strong desire on the part of the trans movement to force the government and force the rest of society to embrace their claim that they have changed their sex. It's not enough that they can go about life presenting themselves as someone of the opposite sex. They want to force the rest of us, and they want to force the government itself to state their claim that they have, somehow changed their sex, despite the fact that their DNA remains the same. And I don't pretend to be a psychologist, but that seems to be the driving force here.
Let me ask you, because we're going to have you back next week to talk about more detailed stuff of what you're working on, but you and Paxton kind of became legends in standing up for the Constitution and standing up for your states. What is it, because you've got one of the best legal educations, let's say, I've ever seen, right? What is it about the judiciary and even the legal profession that appears that they've so radicalized that they may be the most radical part of this of the progressive democratic movement. There may be even more radical than much more radical than even elected officials. Why is that?
I think there are two things going on. One is that there are attorneys who become judges who believe in an activist judiciary. And that is to say, they believe that judges should do more than just interpret the law, the words of the law neutrally, but that judges should take action and act as a pseudo legislator. And then that's in combination with the fact that the left politically in America is losing a lot of these battles in the legislature. And so they are putting pressure on the courts to give them a victory after they've already lost in front of the representatives of the people. So you've got an ideological mindset among many of the people who go into the judiciary, not all of them, but many of them. And then you've got this intense pressure from the left saying, hey, this is our only, we've lost in the legislature. We can't possibly win in the legislature. We are taking our battle to the courts. And of course, the ACLU is their primary, vanguard. Those are their shock troops every time a case like this is filed. And of course, I'm litigating against the ACLU in this case.
Chris, where do people go to your website and social media to follow you and all the fights that you're in?
ChrisKobach.com is my personal website, KRISKOBACH.com. Also, the Attorney General's official website will include some updates on this litigation too, and that's ag.ks.gov.
Chris Kobach from Kansas. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
Also one of the greatest for years, one of the greatest immigration and fought so many of the great battles that got us to President Trump and where we are today to actually get the mass deportations and to get these illegal aliens out of the country. Chris Kobach was in the breach many, many times. Is Terry Schilling? Do I have Terry Schilling yet? Terry Schilling. You just saw Kobach. And I want to say, if it wasn't for people like Kobach and Schilling, Terry, just give us a because, and I want to talk about the shootings, this movement that you helped identify